Hello there, and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Meyers. We're here every week, meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues. And today we welcome in a guest who's an expert on a very specific subject.
Yes, Dr. Adam Ashe is going to be talking to us about oncology and hematology. He is the chief of those sections at OU College of Medicine. He is a real nationally recognized expert in this area, and there are a lot of interesting topics he can visit with us about that perhaps we have not thought about before.
And we'll look forward to that. It's today on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
I wanted to become a princess ever since I was little. Being crowned is an amazing feeling. It means everything to me to represent my tribe, especially as princess.
The Chickasaw Princess program has been in existence since 1963. The leadership and the skills that we learn as being the Chickasaw Princess has been handed down from generation to generation.
We're the ambassadors of the Chickasaw Nation for a year.
We're a special group of ladies that have represented different governors and lieutenant governors over the years.
I would tell young girls who want to become a princess just to go for it. Don't let any barriers stop you from doing what you want to do.
There are some dynamic young ladies that are going to be great ambassadors for the Chickasaw Nation out there. Once a princess, always a princess, with honor and dignity.
See more stories about the Chickasaw people at profilesofanation.com.
The Vet Hero office at the University of Central Oklahoma, it is a one-stop shop for veterans when they're trying to get their education.
I call it my encore job. I get to take care of veterans. We help them transition. I was that guy that transitioned after 24 years, and in the end, GI Bill is a benefit that those soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marine earned. It was the thing that made us the greatest country in the world coming out of World War II, and it will continue to do the same thing for this future generation of service members.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Meyers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
As we indicated in the open, Dr. Adam Ashe is our guest. Dr. Ashe is the Deputy Director of the Stevenson Cancer Center at OU Med. He did his undergraduate work at Swarthmore College, did his medical work at Thomas Jefferson Medical College. He's taken additional studies at North Shore College of Medicine, and also the Wheel Cornell Med Center. He is chief of the section of Hematology and Oncology at OU Med. He's also a professor at the OU Med School, and how he has time to do anything else, I'm not quite sure. There's an awful lot of duties. But welcome, sure glad to have you.
Nice to be here.
Thanks, Dr. Ashe, for coming on.
Sure thing.
Yeah, so your young life, where did you grow up, and what were you doing as a youngster?
Well, I grew up in New York, in Queens, and went to public schools there. As you mentioned, I had an interest in science, and ultimately ended up pursuing that.
Mm-hmm. I think you must be a pretty outspoken person for public education if you're a product of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
What was it about your specific public education in Queens that you think inspired you or led you in this direction?
Well, New York City has public school in New York City is a mix of patients. Mm-hmm. The neighborhood I grew up in changed the demographics during the time that I lived there, and it's continued to change. So New York always has been a vibrant community, exciting to live in. And New York City has a system of public education that includes some special high schools, that science and math high schools, and so that was a tremendous opportunity afforded to me that otherwise would not have had exposure to the kinds of teachers that I had.
When you entered college, did you know exactly what you wanted to do, or were you still a little open-minded?
I was driven by science, but I thought I'd end up in the lab, frankly. And Swarthmore is a very small school, sort of intimate relationship with professors. We had classes in professors' homes, and so really good opportunity to dig deep into the methodology and the science, and so that was inspiring. And I think more than anything, that experience, more than the actual knowledge, was the knowledge of how to get knowledge. I mean, how to learn was probably the most important thing that anybody learns.
How did you get directed toward medicine? I realize you had a scientific background, undergraduate.
I think the choice of medicine versus science was influenced by an experience I had when I was an undergraduate. So one of the courses that I ended up developing for myself, it was a self-study program, was a research project with a professor at the University of Pennsylvania. She was a medical doctor who ran a lab, and her interest was really, what we were doing in the lab was very basic science-y stuff, but it was her perspective on why that was important to patients that impressed me. And she was a remarkable lady, and it's really that experience in her lab and her perspective on why people do science and what the value is to medicine that really tipped the scales for me.
How did you get to Oklahoma? From Queens.
From Queens. So I spent most of my professional life in New York. So I trained at Cornell for fellowship, and I stayed there for more than 20 years as a physician, but also running a lab and doing research in a lab. And I was enticed to leave for North Carolina initially. Spent a few years in North Carolina, and then I was recruited here at really the start of a big push to get NCI designation for the Stevenson Cancer Center. And the excitement of being involved in the launch of a new NCI designated cancer center was really the draw.
And that was successful, was it not?
It sure was, yeah. It's been exciting. I've been here for about 5 years, and during that time, the progress within the cancer center, at the university, in Oklahoma in general, has really been impressive.
I know there's been a lot of success stories out of the Stevenson Cancer Center, but pick one that has impacted the study of medicine or impacted people's lives.
Well, I think that there are one of the strengths of the Cancer Center has been the commitment to clinical research that we do. In fact, we lead the country in enrollment to NCI, the National Cancer Institute, sponsored clinical trials. There's nobody else in the country that comes close in terms of the numbers of patients that are enrolled. And that means a number of things for patients. It means access to new therapies that are just not yet FDA approved, and the sort of supervision over care that only comes in a clinical trial, and so that is unique to the Cancer Center, and there are several observations that have come from that. So we have an investigator who was the lead investigator in really a practice-changing study that was published in the New England Journal last year that changes the way women with ovarian cancer are treated, and produced the most significant change in survival that people have seen in that disease in years.
Yeah, the survival rate of that particular disease was not very good, was it?
correct, but this more than doubled the survival, and as I said, it's the kind of fruits of the labor that come from hard work in clinical trials. It's not just a snap. It's years of work, thinking about what drugs would work, and then enrolling patients and analyzing the data and ensuring the safety of the patients. Yeah.
How many people are typically in a clinical trial? How many patients?
That's a great question. The landscape of clinical trials changes. It depends on the clinical trial. So, the earliest clinical trials are called phase 1 trials, where it's a brand new drug, and the goal of the study is really to decide on the dose of the drug and the safety of the drug. And the efficacy, while it's always important, is a secondary kind of thing. Those clinical trials tend to be really quite small, and so we may enroll a handful of patients in a clinical trial that nationwide is going to enroll somewhere between 20 and 30 patients. And then when you start to do clinical trials that are looking to see whether the drug actually works, the efficacy trials, those are called phase 2 trials, and those trials need to enroll enough patients to get a signal to actually see what's going on. And so it very much depends what the frequency of the signal is going to be. So those trials could be 50 patients or a couple of hundred patients. And then the largest trials are called phase 3 trials. And those are trials where we're really trying to decide, is this standard of care therapy better or worse than this new therapy? And so you're comparing usually two arms of a study that are likely to be much bigger, because again, we're looking oftentimes to identify significant differences that statistically are relatively small in terms of the percentage difference in survival or outcome.
Adam Ashe is the Deputy Director of the Stevenson Cancer Center. We'll be back with more after this.
OU Law has a history and heritage that are unparalleled. At the University of Oklahoma College of Law, we empower our students to pursue the career of their dreams. We have the highest U.S. News ranking ever achieved by an Oklahoma law school. We are the first law school in the country to launch a college-wide digital initiative, and this year, our competition teams ranked number 2 in the nation. OU Law, generations of excellence, limitless possibilities.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Welcome back to the set of the verdict. We're visiting with Adam Ashe of OU Medical Center. He's the Deputy Director at the Stevenson Cancer Center.
Doctor, when you were in medical school, and perhaps even before that, you were faced with an awful lot of choices, an awful lot of good options on what to pick, and all kinds of areas of medical practice one could go into. How did you pick hematology and oncology?
So, well, in medical school, actually, every rotation I did was what I thought I wanted to, to be. But what ultimately drove me to hematology oncology is what drew me to medicine in the first place, which is the science. So when I went to medical school a long time ago, it was, and it probably still is, the specialty that's the most grounded in science of any of the specialties. And it was the excitement about translating that science into practice that still excites me.
Yeah, as science, it doesn't do anybody any good. It has to be translated before anybody benefits.
Yeah.
Tell me about CAR T therapy.
So that's an example of the translation of remarkable science, several remarkable pieces of science. So CAR T stands for chimeric antigen receptor T cells. And it's a relatively new therapy that harnesses the immune system, specifically patients' lymphocytes or immune cells, and retargets them to tumor in a really cool way. So it is gene therapy in the sense that patient cells are taken from their blood and then transfected with a virus that encodes for a targeting molecule that basically tells the T cell you're gonna see this protein on that tumor cell. And these are cells that normally have a function of surveillance and killing bad stuff. Usually viruses is what they've evolved to do. But in this case, they've been repurposed to kill tumor cells, and they are truly serial killers in the sense that they'll target a tumor cell, they'll kill it, and they'll go on to kill another cell and another cell and another. They'll kill thousands of tumor cells. One of these CAR T cells can do that. And it is a therapy which is initially been used to treat some hematologic malignancies because the target was convenient, and so many of the therapies that have been developed because they target a specific protein that's common to many of these hematologic malignancies. But it's a technology that can be used if you know what antigen or what protein you want to target, you can target virtually any cancer. And so while there are 2 FDA-approved indications that we've just launched at the Stevenson, there are clinical trials looking at this kind of therapy for other malignancies, and we're involved in that as well. And it is among the most exciting things that I've had the opportunity to work with in my career. It's the responses for patients who have failed other therapies has really been quite remarkable.
When you come along a specific issue like this, do they find you or do you find them? In other words,
it's both. It's both. So honestly, CAR T cell therapy was around 5 years ago, and for the past 5 years, we've been looking for opportunities to develop that technology at Stevenson, and it is, as I said, it's a little bit of both. It's convincing the companies and investigators that you're good enough to do those studies, and convincing them that that you really want to do it. So.
How far away, if at all, are we from those kinds of CAR T therapies actually being used routinely on patients that need it?
It is part of our transplant and cellular therapy program, and
so it's being used now.
It's being used now, and we have infused so far. There are 2 patients that are currently under treatment in the CAR T program. One in a clinical trial, And we have others who are going to be utilizing an FDA-approved indication and product. It's complex care. It's cumbersome because I explained it. It's cells that come out of the patient, get shipped off, get transfected with a virus that encodes for the right protein, and then those cells are shipped back. And weeks later, they're infused into the patient. And meanwhile, we are managing the patient's illness because it's been progressing. And so, as remarkable as it is, it's a complex task that requires a team. What
about side effects of CAR T?
There can be side effects, and they can be quite dramatic. In part because when these cells kill the tumor cell, it creates what we call a cytokine storm, where it's an inflammatory response that can make patients very sick. And so part of the effort is making sure that we have the team in place and the resources to support patients. Fortunately, as sick as these patients get sometimes with this therapy, in the clinical trials, there was virtually, there was almost no mortality. So patients got very sick. Many patients ended up in the intensive care unit. Some patients need drugs to support their blood pressure, and there are antidotes to this kind of storm. And managing patients is part of the process.
How do you communicate your work to the medical community? How does a doctor who might be far removed from the Stevenson Cancer Center find out about a therapy or suggest one of their patients go into a clinical trial?
Sure. So we have, there are a number of different ways that we seek to do that. Just globally, the clinicaltrials.gov is a national resource that has clinical trials and lists what centers they're open in. So any clinical trial has to be listed on that. But the Stevenson has a website, and the clinical trials are listed on the website. We reach out to the practicing physicians in all over Oklahoma because we're in partnership with the practices in Oklahoma, and we want patients and physicians to know what clinical trials are available. Sometimes those clinical trials are available closer to home in the practices, but oftentimes the clinical trials that we have to offer are available in the cancer center and maybe not elsewhere. And so it's important for people to sort of think about that. And we regularly reach out to the practices that we feel we're in partnership with and try and communicate that. That's obviously besides publications and other sorts of things.
Well, about out of time, but how do you like being at Stevenson?
I love it. It's been a remarkable 5 years. It's been exciting, and as I said, the stuff that's going on now is even more exciting.
Mm-hmm. What can people at home do to help you and help the Stevenson Cancer Center succeed?
Well, I think be aware of what we're doing, supporting us, and being a part of what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, great things are happening.
Yeah,
we appreciate your work.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for what you do.
Thank you so much.
All right. Adam Ashe is the Deputy Director at the Stevenson Cancer Center. He's an expert on hematology, and as you heard, a lot of other things. Kent and I'll have a final word when we get back. Thank you so much.
Thank
My
you,
pleasure.
Doctor.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Careful, you're wired up there.
Yep.
It used to be okay in hospitals. It used to be okay in movie theaters. It was okay in classrooms, restaurants, and airplanes. But thanks to a greater understanding of the dangers, that's not okay anymore. So now that we know secondhand smoke causes lifelong health problems, why is it still okay to smoke with children in the car? Bottom line, it's not okay. Let's get serious about protecting kids. Join the fight at stopswithme.com.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
You have children come from a different lifestyle, different mindset. You have to open your arms and really do what you have to do to have that child become a part of your family. And if it's more patience, that's what you do. Kids gotta know they can trust you. And that's what we try to do with these kids.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Meyers doing a show with Dr. Ashe of the Stevenson Cancer Center. Some amazing work going on there.
Yes, it's obvious that Dr. Ashe is a real fine addition to the staff they have at Stevenson, which is great to start with.
Mm-hmm.
But they are doing some cutting-edge things that are going to be, I think, reap great benefits for patients for years and years to come.
And congratulations to the Stevenson Cancer Center for being able to recruit a doctor of his reputation from across the country.
And to attain that oncology rating as a cancer center.
Absolutely. It's something we should all be proud of in the state of Oklahoma. We have some website information. I'd love to pass that along so you can get more information on our guest. That is OUHSC, stands for OU Health Science Center, but OUHSC.edu. And that's how you get more information on the work that they all do at that facility and the Stevenson Cancer Center specifically. And we have a website about our show, theverdict.tv. Would love to see you log on and tell us about a guest you'd like to see or a topic you'd like to see us discuss on a future edition. So feel free to do it. Again, it's theverdict.tv. That's going to do it for this week's show. For Kent Meyers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next week right here on The Verdict.